Vous voulez voyager? Achetez vos billets d'avion à l'agence de voyage Tempo Afrique Travel. Avec l'agent de voyage Tempo Afrique Travel, pas de problème de connexion, pas de problème de transfert de vol. Avec l'agent de voyage Tempo Afrique Travel, c'est le voyage en toute tranquillité, en toute beauté, de votre maison jusqu'à votre destination. Votre satisfaction est notre plaisir.
Hot mix mixing.
Hello, welcome to Africa Weekly Report with Ellie Naima on Tempo Africa TV. So this week we're going to touch base, just kind of like a follow-up on a lot of things that's been happening in Ethiopia, and also including the famine that has been taking place in East Africa, which is still going on until December. And lastly but not least, in Nigeria, how the rain is affecting the civilians as well. So going on to what is happening in Ethiopia, I guess USA has finally taken notice of all the war that's been taking place in Ethiopia with Tigray, which started in 2020 of November, and it is still happening. Things are still pretty bad in Ethiopia, and USA Envoy are stepping in to figure out about the peace talk between Prime Minister and the Tigray rebel as well. So from the fighting that started in November 2020, after forces loyal to the TPLF attacked on federal army base, killing troops and looting weapons, causing human rights groups as well, accusing of warring sides of both committing autocrats. So if you guys remember, a lot of people were displaced, a lot of people were affected by the war. Many horrible situations happened as well during this war. And the U.S. envoy for the Horn of Africa, Mike Hammer, met with the Ethiopian's deputy prime minister, Demike Mekonnen, in Addis Ababa on Friday. The official Ethiopian news agent, ENA, in the effort to end the conflict in the north. Now, will they be able to succeed, or how they're going to do it, or what is going to happen? It is still developing, and they are still working on it. They have not come to a good conclusion in how the peace talk is going to go about. So both sides are pretty stubborn. So for 4 months in hope for peace talk, fighting continues on August 24th in northern Ethiopia between the Ethiopian Federal Army, backed up by the forces from the Tigray border regions and the Eritrean Army, and the rebels from the breakaway Tigray region. So the federal government of Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed and the rebel authorities in Tigray said in early October that they were ready to go to talk in South Africa, convened by the AU, the African Union. But these talks could not take place, according to the Prime Minister, mainly because of organizational and logistical problems, according to diplomats, and fighting continues. On Friday, during the discussion with Mr. Hammer, Mike Demike, who is also foreign minister, has mentioned in a tweet, reaffirmed the government's commitment to a peaceful resolution of the conflict in the north of the country. And on Wednesday, the United States, along with other Western countries, urged that the Ethiopian government and the Tigray rebels to start the African Union lead peace talks, and called on Eritrea to withdraw its troops from northern Ethiopia. So there's still debate going on for a peace talk. There's still hope for a peace talk for Ethiopia to put it into this conflict. And the United States and the rest of the Western world are stepping in to voicing their concerns as well. So as the story continues to develop, we'll continue to give more updates on what goes on in Ethiopia. Now, meanwhile, in Ethiopia itself, the country has ordered banks to deny foreign currency to businesses importing priority goods in an effort to shore up dwindling foreign reserves in one of Africa's major economies. A lot of people probably expected this to happen because Ethiopia are very strict when it comes to what is imported into the country and what is exported out of the country as well, including the currency, and they're very strict on the US dollars as well. So in late March, the National Bank of Ethiopia indicated reserves have fallen to $1.6 billion at the end of 2021, covering less than 2 months' worth of imports, according to local newspapers, The Reporter. A largely importing country, Ethiopia is in structural shortage of foreign currency, says the French Treasury, which has been going on for a while. So there has been a lot of rumors going around about the foreign currency being short in Ethiopia, so they do their best to reserve the foreign currency in the country. And it's affecting a lot of business. It's affecting a lot of the imports that are coming in and out of Ethiopia as well. So a letter was stated by the Ethiopia Central Bank, by the Ministry of Finance, saying it had become necessary to restrict the use of foreign currency to importing food, medicine, and medical equipment and raw materials for manufacturing. The list also includes about 40 products, including vehicles, motorcycles, wall clocks, umbrellas, carpets, soaps, alcohol, perfumes, and cigarettes. Therefore, said the minister Maluku Alebel Addis, he added, we are sending a list of goods that will not be allowed forex for an indefinite period of time. And we don't know how long that period is going to be. And a lot of these announcements have just came out this week. Ethiopian authorities have also recently tightened laws on foreign currency holdings for individuals and businesses and banned all foreign currency transactions in Ethiopia. There was also a crackdown this month on the black market exchange of foreign currency, where the US dollars can fetch almost twice the official exchange rate amid a surge in demand. Now, in the black market, the rate is a bit different than the government banks. So many have been using the black market as a way to get more money in the exchange of the foreign currency, where the bank takes majority of the percentage. So now they're doing a crackdown on the black market, which will be quite of a change for Ethiopia. The central bank also announced this month it had blocked nearly 400 bank accounts believed linked to illicit currency trading, and promises financial rewards to those who denounce players in the parallel market. So in overall, where in the black market you get more money out of the rate, where in the bank you get less. So that has been affecting the circulation of the currency in Ethiopia, because two things that are not functioning in the same direction can cause more inflation in the country as well. Now, the famine release in East Africa, this famine has been going on for a little while, and it is that season of it. So eight organizations in the United Nations are calling for urgent famine release for East Africa, as people of Kenya, Somalia, and Ethiopia confront their worst drought for 40 years. Oxfam says food shortages are likely to cause one death every 36 seconds until the end of year. That's a lot of people in a few seconds. While the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization says help is needed now. 4 successive seasons of poor rainfall have caused livestock to die and crops to fail. With rural population in hard-to-reach areas of Somalia, the hardest hit, which is the hard of hit, according to Peter Schmidt, the current drought is the worst that we have seen in the last 4 decades. It has affected about 7.8 million people. So just to put things in perspective, this is about half of Somalia's population. 90% of the country is facing extreme drought. Continuing on. We should not, as he continued to say, we should not wait for a famine declaration to act, because then it will be too late. We know from 2011, when we faced a famine situation and a famine declaration, that by the time the famine was declared, half of the 260,000 people who died had actually already died. The war in Ukraine also has an effect on this, which exacerbated the situation, causing high food prices, while food instabilities is often linked to an increase in gender-based violence. The alert coincidence with the United Nations World Food Day, as they announced. Now, lastly but not least, Nigeria is getting hit by a pretty heavy rainfall that has caused about 500 people to die so far. And about 500 people are believed to have died in Nigeria, worst flooding in decades, with a further 1.4 million people displaced from their homes. That's a chunk, a lot of people. The heavy downfalls have hit huge across the country and affected people in all walks of life. Now, one of the taxi drivers spoke out and explained about his experience according to the flood and how it's affecting people. Jude Ikeni is a motor taxi driver whose business has been badly damaged by this situation. And as he said, for him as a driver, it has affected us, he explained. It has affected us very, very much. Affected me most especially because people are no longer living in the area. People have migrated to other places. We no longer see passengers to carry. It's only those canoe people that are the ones doing the shuttle service. We don't have anything like Kiki or bus or other vehicles that we would normally use for transportation. The flood has caused by abundant rain and poor infrastructure have affected the country, sparking fears of food shortages and high inflation as well. Fuel scarcity has already caused large queues at petroleum stations in the capital Abuja this week after tankers were blocked by floods in neighboring states. Now, Jude also added, together with our neighbors, we paid for over 5 trips of sand that we would drop along these streets and in front of our yard to stop the flood from entering our houses. But all to no avail. The whole effort was abortive. It could not have worked because the flood was too much. Even more heavy rain is expected in the coming weeks and months. So the rainy season, which typically ends in November in northern states and in December in the south, and more damage to the people and property is likely to be ahead. So that's all the updates that is going on in East Africa, and have a wonderful night.
C'est encore Yves Kenao, c'est toujours Yves Kenao qui revient. Cette fois-ci, pour vous dire que Tempo Afrique TV vous offre plus de 4000 chaînes de télévision. Les chaînes européennes, les chaînes américaines, les chaînes asiatiques, les chaînes africaines. À un prix imbattable. À un prix imbattable. Tenez-vous bien. $185 pour 12 mois, inclus le box. Alors, où est-ce que vous pouvez trouver mieux que ça si ce n'est pas sur Tempo Afrique TV? Mesdames, Messieurs, appelez seulement le 612 804 0295 et vous serez servi. Vous serez agréablement surpris de voir plus de 4000 chaînes de télévision rouler sur votre écran comme ça, et vous choisissez laquelle vous voulez. Alors mesdames, n'hésitez pas. N'hésitez surtout pas et ne faites pas compter. Prenez votre téléphone, prenez le tout de suite et appelez le 612, le 804, le 02 95. Nous sommes là, ici à Tempo TV, pour rendre votre vie simple et agréable. Alors, saisissez l'occasion donc. 185 $ pour toute une année, pour 12 mois, inclus le box. Quoi de mieux que ça?
Du nouveau à Minneapolis, Tempo Afrique Travel. Vous voulez voyager? Achetez vos billets d'avion à l'agent de voyage Tempo Afrique Travel. Avec l'agent de voyage Tempo Afrique Travel, pas de problème de connexion, pas de problème de transfert de vol. Avec l'agent de voyage Tempo Afrique Travel, c'est le voyage en toute tranquillité, en toute beauté, de votre maison jusqu'à votre destination. Votre satisfaction est notre plaisir.
My whole life, my father told me stories about moving to the United States. He would tell me that his brother, my Uncle George, was already living here and let my father stay with him for a while. Through my Uncle George, my father was introduced to our cultural organization here in America, who helped him make connections, apply for college, find his first job, and adjust to life in a completely different culture than he was used to. The Cultural Association helped him get started on his new life. My Uncle George would bring my father with him to the annual Summer Cultural Groups Festival, and later, he would bring me. It was incredible to see so many people of all ages laughing and celebrating with food and song and dance. It brought back the best feelings of home and gave my father the opportunity to pass his culture, language, and values on to me. My father and Uncle George were very close, so when George died last year, my father wanted to honor his wishes to be buried with a traditional ceremony back at his birthplace. My father told me that because Uncle George had cultural group life insurance, he was able to afford to bring George home and have the traditional burial George wanted. Though my father had been able to honor my Uncle George's wishes, it got me thinking about my own family. One day, I'd have to make the same arrangements for my own parents, and my wife's parents as well. Of course, we would want to bring them home and honor their wishes, but it would be a financial hardship for our family. There were a lot of things to think about, even though I really didn't want to think about them at all. When my father told me about cultural group life insurance, he told me it's intended to help families when they need it the most. It's not tied to an employer, so no matter where my career takes me, I'll always have coverage. The more people who participate and the younger they are, the more it helps keep the insurance premiums down for the entire association. Because my parents have cultural group term life insurance, there will be money available to help me provide the kind of service I want to give my parents. And by joining, I can put my mind at ease and continue to celebrate our traditions into the future. With cultural group life insurance, I can worry less and spend more of my time celebrating with the people who matter most to me.